One, go.
Hello and welcome to today's Facebook Live. Today we're going to be talking about content marketing. I've got Stacey and Rachel here with me who will introduce themselves. They've got a wealth of experience in content marketing and should be able to give some useful and hopefully insightful tips and that you can take back in action in your own business. So without further ado, we'll go to the introductions. Stacey, can I come to you first, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Stacey. I've been doing SEO and content marketing for around about 10, 11 years now. Initially working for an agency in Manchester for 8 or 9 of those and running my own consultancy for the last couple of years. And for me, I'm from a copywriting background. So pretty much everything I've ever done in marketing to some degree always comes back to content anyway.
Rachel?
Yeah, Rachel Weinhold from GrowTraffic. So quite similar to Stacey, actually. I've probably been doing it for maybe 6, 7, 8 years now. Well, actually, when Leon was a baby. So yeah, 8 or 9 years. Started off as a freelance copywriter when I first started doing copywriting. For reasons, because I had a really bad back, I still have got a bad back, and I needed something that would work flexibly, and freelance copywriting was the perfect solution for me at the time. So I started doing that, started writing blogs for people, mainly blogs, social media posts, online web content, that sort of stuff. And slowly, as SEO and copywriting became more important to each other, kind of transitioned across into GrowTraffic, shall we say. So for the last 6, 7 years, I've been doing GrowTraffic, which is an SEO digital marketing agency. So we do have a very heavy emphasis on the content side of things because of the background that most of us in the GrowTraffic team have come from. And yeah, so there we go. SEO copywriting.
Okay. So I'm Simon Dalley. I am a director here at GrowTraffic. I've almost 20 years experience in marketing, and I've been doing content marketing before anybody thought to call it content marketing, way back when. So I suppose the obvious thing that maybe some business owners will be thinking to themselves is just, what exactly is content marketing? Stacey, how would you define it?
Yeah, the first thing I'd say is don't Google it, because you get such confusing, overwhelming definitions that make small business owners think well, I don't need that. To me, it's just absolutely anything whatsoever that you do with any kind of content, whether it's text or images, video, whatever it is, where the overall goal is to contribute to a marketing objective, either directly or indirectly. So blogging and social media, any type of content whatsoever that helps you reach an audience, to me, constitutes content marketing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Rachel?
Yeah, I think what Stacey said is absolutely right. One of the things that I found, especially in SEO, is particularly good at this. But the people who are in it like jargon, and they like to come up with fancy names for things that make it sound really, really clever. Like, oh, we're not blogging, we're doing content marketing, and so they give things these names. And as exactly as Stacey said, if you're a small to medium business owner, you might Google that and think, well, I don't need to market using content. I've got other routes to market, or that's not how I primarily get my customers. But it's just producing any type of content that you do for a marketing purpose. In GrowTraffic, we mainly do it with a digital twist, obviously. So our goal is to get people and traffic back to your website. So it's any kind of content that does that. It is blogs, it is articles, it is web content, it is social media posts, it's email newsletters, it's ebooks, anything that you write that creates content and goes out to try and sell your business to an audience, that is content marketing.
Yeah, completely agree. In addition to things that you write, it could be podcasts, it could be videos, it could be any type of content across the board, anything you can think of. I think the interesting thing about and exactly what Stacey said in the beginning, it's contributing towards a marketing objective. But I think the interesting thing about content marketing, especially for maybe small business owners who don't have a lot of experience in marketing, is that content marketing can often seem like you're just kind of creating a bit of content, and it can be hard to understand how to align content to the objective that you've got, how they will contribute to delivering some of those objectives, and especially when you talk about pieces of content that are quite high up the funnel, they're quite early on in terms of where the customer is and the buyer is, and it can often feel or seem like there's, I don't know, like a misalignment, or there's a lack of. It's difficult to see how that one piece of content joins up with the strategy, and often that's because a customer might need several pieces of content to help them to make a purchase or to inquire or whatever that would be. I think from a marketer, and especially for a small business owner and for a marketer as well, it's just important to remember the word marketing in the phrase content marketing.
I think it's worth as well. I think it's worth at this point, it kind of explains sort of, without going too deep into the history of content marketing and the reason why we do it, yes, the content marketing has existed way before search engines did. And I know I've said that we look at everything through an SEO kind of lens. But it is as well about creating the content that is there. If you look at what Google wants as a search engine, what Google's looking for, they want websites that are answering the questions that searchers are asking. People go to the internet to ask it questions, and they want people to be doing it. So if you're thinking of, as a small to medium business owner, why should I bother creating content? It is about creating content, yes, that talks to your audience at whatever stage of the funnel they're at, and we'll come on to that a bit more in a little while. But also it's about writing content that's going to prove to search engines that you are working on this website, and you're talking about the things that you do, and you're growing it, and you're nurturing it, and all the rest of it. So there are multiple threads as to why people would do content marketing, aren't there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think and I mean, how do you think that content marketing fits into that broader marketing piece then? Because you're right, I mean, naturally you're coming at it from a kind of SEO perspective and thinking about it in that way, talking about how it influences search engines, but ultimately, that and that's an objective, isn't it? That's something that we want to achieve. Or but yeah, how do you think it fits into that broader piece?
I mean, everywhere.
I'll go to Staple.
Yeah, I think it fits everywhere. So I mean, obviously my first thing is always the kind of obvious stuff. So I want to produce content that answers questions that we know people are asking search engines about a certain thing. But equally, if you produce content that's quite informational, so we've got an example, I worked on a holiday account a few years ago, and we noticed there was a lot of volume for people searching, where should I go on holiday? So we produced this interactive quiz that answered the question. And that's great and everything. It drove loads of traffic, ranks number one for where should I go on holiday. But ultimately, people get to the end of that quiz, and they've already told us when they want to go, how far they're prepared to fly, what sort of holiday they want, who they're going with. They get a destination. We can send them through to the landing pages. Most of them aren't going to book there and then. And I think it's kind of naive to just rely on brand recall when there's so many holiday websites out there. So actually then the thing to do is create retargeting lists. Actually, we know by the end of that process that those people, where they want to go, who, with, and when. So then we hand over to a PPC team who can retarget these people and bring them back and sell to them. So I think actually content at all stages of people's buying process spans loads of channels. To me, content marketing isn't its own channel. It's kind of an overarching thread of every channel that you do. I think it all ties in, all channels, and should be really well integrated with all channels.
Absolutely. Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, well, it reminds me, like when when you're on Facebook and stuff, and they're like, oh, what kind of marshmallow are you, or what kind of which Care Bear should you be, and all the rest of it. And yeah, it's a fun quiz for people to be doing at the time. But actually, what's happening with those is that people are collecting data about you, and that data is yes, then for big data companies to use, but also for businesses to use, so that they can better target the rest of the stuff. The more you know about your end customer, the more you can better to give them a message that they need at the point that they need it to make them more likely to buy your product and service. And every little bit of content marketing that you do and that allows you to do that, whether it's blogging or web content or whatever, it needs to be a two-way channel. And I think this is one of the big mistakes that companies make. And again, I know I'm jumping ahead to questions that we're asking further down, which I always tell you off for, Dalley. But when you're thinking about what are the don'ts of it, business owners often think of it as a one-way channel whereby I want to give you, the customer, a message, and this is why I am creating this. And actually, it's as much about you finding out more about your customers, as well as telling them a message. And I think that's one of the important things that people miss, is that two-way channel of content marketing.
Yeah, I think absolutely, content marketing is a overarching strategy, isn't it? That fits in, that kind of should kind of integrate and join up all the different channels that you kind of are using. Like you say, Rachel, you can get so much data in terms of understanding the types of things that customers are engaging with. But then on the flip side, it's also really easy to fall into the trap of creating the type of content that people want to consume, but possibly isn't as well aligned to your kind of strategic objectives. And I think a good example actually is I used to work for an online letting agency, one of the leading online letting agencies in the UK, and they had a piece of content. I think it was something like, where's the top 5 sunniest places to live, or something like that, and it just got so much traffic. But it was just one of those vanity stats. It got so much traffic, but it had no alignment to the ultimate goal of attracting more landlords, which was what that business wanted to do. It got a load of people on who were interested about where they could potentially live in the UK, but it didn't necessarily hook into the kind of marketing objectives themselves.
Well, it's like those ones where you see, I think the Lancashire Evening Post does one, don't they? Where are the shittest places to live in Britain, and everybody shares that on their Facebook because they're like, oh yeah, we live in the 3rd shittest place in the country, and it's great. If your objective is simply to get some new Facebook likes or shares, or to get grow a bit of traffic to your website, then fine, that type of content is gonna work really well. But you're right, if your objective is to get more sign-ups, it's not going to do that. So you've got to, thinking about what kind of content you're creating, you've got to have a real mix of all of these different types in there, so that you are creating content for the different types of people and the different buyer stages and the different objectives, and thinking about all of those in your content. And again, and I'm jumping ahead, but one of the big mistakes that people make is they just think, oh, let's just create content, let's just write blogs, let's just add some more pages to the website or whatever. And if you haven't put a strategy behind that, it's not going to work. And then you get people coming back to content marketing's crap. It never worked. I wrote a blog for 3 months and I didn't get any traffic. I didn't get any sales from it. So it's a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally, so many jobs that I do now start with actually removing chunks of content from sites, whereby someone said, oh, actually, I hired 3 copywriters. I had them updating the blog every day. And I mean, their job description is just keep the blog up to date. No brief more than that. And actually, Google's ignoring all this content. You have thousands and thousands of pages. Your website's just bloated with crap. Like, you're undoing it before you get started with something actually worth doing. You see it all the time. People have been told, and I think as an industry, we've got a bit of a collective responsibility for it, because, we're chiming this content is amazing bell without much more depth behind what we say, not necessarily us personally, but as an industry, we kind of have a terrible habit of doing it. And then small business owners who perhaps, aren't in a position to invest in a specialist to come in right now, will just think, right, well, I'm just going to get some writers to do content or outsource some writing without strategy or brief. And there's a job to clean up.
We did it a little bit with GrowTraffic, didn't we? Because if I think back to kind of 9-10 years ago on the website, you know, we were writing blogs, which mainly, you know, Dalley was writing and I was doing a few of them, but it was mainly blogs about SEO, and it was about algorithm updates, and it was about keyword stats, and it was really technical stuff. And yes, we needed to demonstrate that we had that knowledge, but essentially we were talking to the wrong people. We were talking to other SEOs, and they're never going to become our customers. They don't want to buy what we're selling because they are SEOs. They're doing it themselves. So we changed our strategy, and we stopped talking to people within the industry, and we started talking to the small to medium business owner. And instantly we got, you know, a much better response, and the traffic started going up. And then at the beginning of last year, or this year maybe, we switched from 2 blogs a month to 3 blogs a month, and the traffic went up again. And you can see, you know, it's really, really demonstrable when you look in Google Analytics when these traffic increases have happened, when we've just made the strategy more aligned to what we actually do, and you know, what the services that we provide, and you can see the impact in it. And that's the stage that people miss out.
I think from GrowTraffic's perspective, when we were, you know, the content that we create as well reflects, you know, over the past 10 years, if you were to look at it reflects the changes in Google, in the way that people consume content. So I'm thinking back kind of 12, 13 years ago. Sometimes I could like have a little search around in Google, come up with a title that nobody else had ever written anything about, create a blog, put a blog live, it would go straight to #1. It'd be #1 nationally, and I'd pretty much guarantee that you'd be able to get sales off the back of it. You know, and times have changed, because we are, you know, every man and the dog, every business out there is creating content, and you've got to be much more strategic about it than ever before. And also, I suppose from GrowTraffic's perspective, back in the day, we were creating content that positioned us in a certain way, made us relevant in a certain way, and our demographic has changed as well, you know, and we naturally kind of evolved our strategy, and we've moved from different target markets, and so I think part of that reflects what's happened just generally. But I also think that, you know, it's a trap that small businesses can easily fall into. I just wondered. I mean, we quite often talk about blogging, don't we? When we talk about content marketing, it's the obvious one, isn't it? It's the one that pretty much anyone can sit down and write a blog and start working on it. It's something that certainly small business owners can probably start doing themselves. But, you know, what are the benefits, do you think, Stacey, in terms of how you can use content marketing for all those different online channels, such as, I don't know, social media?
Yeah, I mean, well, you can use content absolutely anywhere and repurpose it. So quite often we'll have clients, if they've got a really good meaty guide, or we had a client who published a big brochure, and the print brochure 2 years ago that they sent out and got nothing from. Repurposed that as an ebook, then repurposed it as a series of smaller sort of very quick how-tos for social media. So actually I find a lot of businesses have got tons of content that can be repurposed for different channels. So if you've got a key vital piece of information, maybe it's on, a good example would be a company I work with who sell appliances, washing machines. We talked to them about creating content, basically said, why do your customers buy washing machines? And we surveyed them. And it's not because they want a washing machine. Nobody's queuing around the block outside Curry's for a new hot point. Like, you buy a washing machine when you have to, because the other one's knackered and on the blink, or you've just moved into a house. Like, it's not a purchase you look forward to making. So we did survey their customers about why they bought today, and found in almost all cases something had broken. So it's like, right, so we're going to produce content now with the help of a washing machine engineer on how to fix common issues with your washing machine. So the first sort of hit back from the client is, we don't want them to fix their washing machines. We want them to be broken, so they have to like buy them. It's like, well, yeah, I get that. We can focus on the fixes that are least common to actually be able to fix, you know, the problems that generally result in either too high a cost or just not fixable. And we wrote a series of guides on what to do if you have certain problems, when it looks like it's not fixable. got them on the website. So every time someone was typing in something like hot point, whatever, flashing, door won't close, this, they were finding the website. And then repurposed them for small info-led display ads, repurposed them across social media, and the sales off it were absolutely amazing. Tons of retargeting on it. And that was just by hitting people at all the different channels. So from my point of view, I cared about the SEO predominantly, but we were able to lower the cost per acquisition through paid by retargeting these people, knowing that they've probably got a problem we can solve, and then bring them through social, organic and paid social, through smaller, more social-led pieces. So I think, and small businesses in particular, where the more senior people are often dealing with the customers more frequently, like independent bike retailers, they're talking to their customers are asking them questions directly all the time, as opposed to like a big corporate where the marketing team's probably sitting in a head office somewhere and never speaks to a customer.
Yeah.
So smaller business in particular, they know exactly what problems their customers have got. They know what objections they've got. So they're probably in a better position than bigger companies in a lot of ways to produce content that does drive tangible results.
You've mentioned two things there, Stacey, that I want to pick up on. The first one was when you say, we've had this where we say, right, we want to create some content around this problem that people are facing. And like, well, actually, I don't want people to fix that problem themselves. I want them to come to us to do it or whatever. And my answer to that is, well, the thing is, though, that you want those people on your website finding the answer to that problem rather than being on Hotpoint's website or Philip's website or wherever. We are creating content to get people onto your site so that you can then give them your sales message. And I think that's one thing that small to medium business owners sometimes miss, is that point of view of you can it's subliminal selling, isn't it? Be helpful, help these people at a point when they need them, have them on your website finding answers to solutions, have your name appearing in front of their eyes, front of mind marketing repeatedly again, and then when they do, when the washing machine is knackered, they know where they're going to come to find it. So that's the one thing that I think people forget. But also that talk to your customers one, and I say this to people all the time, especially when we're teaching our blogging course, and again it comes back to this. Business owners have this message of, right, this month I want to sell X product and Y product. This is what I want to focus on this month. And that's great. You can do that. But actually, you need to look at it from the other point of view. Well, what are the issues then that your customers are facing at the moment? What problems have they got in order to do this? And having those conversations with them is such an important thing. Talk to, like you said, do questionnaires, put a survey together, send it out to people, have a conversation. If a customer has asked you the same question, or 5 customers have asked you the same question all week, chances are you need to be creating a little bit of content about that and putting it on your website. So yeah, again, absolutely. If you want to be doing effective content marketing, you have got to be dealing with the queries and the problems and the questions that your customers have, and you're only going to find out what they are if you speak to them and have that conversation, that dialogue with them.
Absolutely. And I think it's also it's just about getting the right content to the customer at the right time, isn't it? And sometimes, and in the right place. We're talking about all the different channels that you can use, but sometimes you can create all the right content and you can have all the right content on the website. And if you've got a misalignment somewhere between I don't know, how you've onboarded your customer and they've just not quite got the right piece of content, you can't expect them to go searching that out all the time. Sometimes you've got to be really targeted about the different triggers that you've got and how you get that content to them at the right time. I mean, what was it? I think I've lost my train of thought there. I was going to.
You're leading into, I think, asking us about the buyer journey and the marketing funnel, aren't you? And how we create content for the right people at the right stage.
What I was really thinking just then was, I was just thinking about who, the kind of small businesses and lots of small businesses, they're not those big kind of marketing teams that we were talking about in the head office that don't talk to the customers, and likewise, they're probably not going to have loads of marketing automation set up and loads of triggers that send out content at different times. So I was just thinking, where should a small business owner start, do you think, Stacey?
So I think you can kind of really simplify that buy-in funnel and start with the awareness, consideration, and obviously ultimately making a purchase. So I think if you look at it more simply and put your customers into 3, maybe 4 steps, sort of break them down to they're just experiencing a problem that you can solve, or they're just coming up to an occasion that they're going to need something for, or whatever it is that's going to be the trigger. So we often talk to clients about their customers' triggers, whether it's actually, for some of them, it is just saw something shiny on Instagram, had to buy it. For others, it's washing machine broke. For others, like life insurance providers, it's had a bit of a scare or just had a baby. There can be big life triggers or just momentary sort of impulsive triggers that make people even start to become aware they might want something. So I think I always tell small businesses to start by speaking to the customers and ask why they bought this thing today, wherever they can, particularly with essential purchases that people don't really want to buy. Find out why, and then create content around that, the top end of that funnel, create content that answers those very, very early questions, or kind of meets some of those early, almost ranting searches that people make in Google, like, washing machine's broken, hot point problem, hot point crap. All those kind of ranty phrases that people pop into Google. Be around and optimize for those. And then sort of once people have made the decision that they're going to need this sort of product, then it comes down to, well, of this huge range that's in front of me, which one is it going to be? And that's when they're going to start asking product specific questions like, which is the best washing machine for a family of 6? Or I've got a dancewear client, and in their case, it's what kind of fabric should the ballet shoes for my 4-year-old be made out of? What kind of ballet shoes do I need? Or what's the difference between a wide fit and a narrow fit in ballet? All kinds of different questions that people are going to buy before they decide on the product. Those are the areas that customers, I think, certainly the businesses I deal with, tend to have covered at least. And business owners tend to be focusing right at the end. So like product landing pages are all optimized and all the content's all written around, well, you want this product, here's why mine's the best, buy it here. It's very much sell, sell, sell. And your website's commercial pages probably should handle that. So generally, I think a good starting point for businesses who are looking to expand upon their content and reach people at other stages of their buying journey is to speak to customers and speak to the customer service team, have a look at all your support emails, your live chat tickets, go back and find the common themes and divide them into steps of the buying journey. So I say, okay, so here's the common objections people have when they're looking at products, or the common queries. And actually, here's why they're starting that buying journey today, and start coming up with content ideas based around that. But I think it all starts with talking to your customers and your customer service team.
Absolutely. Rachel, where do you think small business owners should start?
Yeah, well, I mean, Stacey has just said it really, and this is one of the things we go through when we're doing our better blogging course as well, is you need to absolutely think of the funnel. So the people at the top of the funnel, they've got a problem. They don't know there's a solution. They don't know that you're the solution. They just know they've got a problem. And that's most people who are going to Google or using Facebook or social media generally. That's the stage that they are at, that they're not, actively aware. So your content that is reaching out to them, your outreach content, that needs to be addressing those problems. And then you bring those people with you. Your content should bring those people through that journey. So they go from knowing that they've got a problem, but they don't know there's a solution, to knowing they've got a problem and knowing that there is a solution, but they don't know about you. Then they know they've got a problem. They know there's a solution. They know that you provide the solution, but they also know that other people provide it. Then there's knowing they've got a problem, knowing there's a solution, knowing that you provide it, and knowing that you are the best person to provide it. And you have got to provide content for our person, a buyer, at every single stage of that journey. And that might not be that, as Stacey said exactly, that might not be that your blogging content can't do all of that in one blog post. So you need to provide that path that takes people to the next stage of content. Right? They've read this blog post about, are you suffering with dry skin? Right? Did you know that there's this amazing cream that solves out all your dry skin issues and sorts your wrinkles out, blah, blah, blah. Then you need to take them to the page on your website, the product specific page that is going to go into more detail about why this is the best one. Then they might need a further piece of content on your website that talks about why your face cream is better than I don't know, Avon's face cream or whatever. So you've got to make sure you have got content that answers all of this, and that you are taking people, as you said, Dally. Don't assume that people are going to find that piece of content by themselves. They won't. They'll get to the end of the blog post. They've got no, if there's nothing telling them where to go next, they're going to click off and read something else on Facebook. So you've got to provide that journey, show them where to go. Right, now you've read that, still interested, I'd really like you to read this bit of information. And that might not happen all in one go either. You've got to account for the fact that process, they might be coming back to the website, reading that over a few blog posts over the course of weeks. They might get a couple of pieces of content in, and at that point you need to hit them with an email newsletter that says, right, I know you've read this blog post and I know you've got dry skin, and again, this comes back to the gathering data and tracking people through the process. I know you've got dry skin. Now I want to tell you more about why our face cream is better than X, Y, and Z's face cream. So that buyer journey, absolutely think about that. If you are starting to content market, if you're a small business owner, sit down and plan. What are the pain points? What are the problems? What are the trigger points? Right. What information do I need to provide people with at all of these stages? And once you've got that, you've got a rudimentary plan for a content calendar. Really, it's then just a case of dropping the titles in and filling it all out.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with you guys. But I think I would also probably suggest for most businesses that they start creating, most small businesses start creating content to begin with in the consideration phase. Everyone's got the decision phase content, because that's your product pages, that's your services pages, and the awareness content is often the easiest content to write, and it's the content that all your competitors put out. So my advice generally to smaller businesses is to start with the consideration based content, which is going to be part of your inbound kind of approach. Let that actually generate traffic to the website that has a chance to push people onto the products and services pages, and then later go back to the top of the funnel and start. Once you've got some of that middle bit of the funnel done, go back then to the awareness phase later on. So I suppose advise to do it the opposite way around than most kind of marketers are taught to do it. And I think the reason that's because I kind of come at it from a search perspective. But once upon a time, we didn't need to do these things. We just needed to have a product and service page, And I think it's really interesting where we're going. And I think, Stacey, you said earlier about you often go to websites and just get rid of a load of the crap content because Google's ignoring it, basically.
Yeah.
And I think we are heading to this kind of content crunch territory where there's just so much crap content out there.
We've been talking about this, though. This has been a thing that's been muted for such a long time, hasn't it? Bursting of the content bubble. And you can absolutely see why. For the past 5-6 years, as SEOs and digital marketers, we have just spent our lives creating more and more and more and more content. And there must be so much shit content out there that's just such low quality. There's got to be a point where we've got to start as an industry cleaning that up as a priority. And Google's got to, it's talked about how the algorithms deal with that. That you can kind of see that's how they're starting to go, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Google is going to kind of be responsible for a lot of the changes that happen. Because I think, to be completely honest, I think a lot of the really shit content out there is probably the fault of SEOs. And I can vouch for being a part of that in 2009 in my article spinning days. So any website you come across that seems to have 103 variants of an article on the benefits of waste management may or may not have been something to do with me. But I think that Google kind of is going to police that a little bit, just inadvertently. Like, we see Google now much better matching intent to content, not perfectly, and there's still some things that Google does are arse over tit, but we do see much better now that we're getting results that seem to align best. Like I used to rank a product page for best ballet shoes for this client. It was number one. And then literally overnight, Google determined if someone decides best ballet shoes is their query, they don't want to see your product page. They would like a more objective guide about what the best shoe is for them. So we had no ranking then for the best variant for quite some time. Still number one for like just ballet shoes. And we had to go and rethink the search intent. And we had to go and think, actually, no, we have to produce a guide here on what sort of shoe you need based on where you're at, based on you, based on how frequently you dance in your age or experience. Produced a guide and regained that ranking. But I think that the algorithms are getting slightly more sophisticated. We are now finding that you can't just put anything up and rank like you used to. You can't do just doorway pages. You can't target your product page with a product that's quite similar but not what you sell anymore. You know, you've got to get a bit smarter. And I think we'll start seeing a natural cleanup then as SEOs start going in and getting a bit braver about ditching content.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see expertise and authority becoming quite a big issue from Google's perspective. You know, they're actually spending a lot more time trying to understand the authors of that content and the type of content that they create and put out there. You know, and thinking back to those content farm days, just remembered it, where you used to create five pieces of content that basically said the same thing, and you spun them all together.
Unique article
wizard. Yeah, I had some horrendous jobs when I was doing freelance copywriting. It was essentially just keep writing the same thing over and over again with a slightly different keyword and stuff.
There's still people doing it. Like I literally spoke to a business last week like that.
And we get this as well from clients, and they say, oh, you know, 5 years ago I did this and I want to do this now. You know, I want a page for every variation of product or every locality or what have you. And it's really hard trying to persuade people that actually, you know, that's not the way to do it, because the message for so long has always been, you know, just create the content, just get the volume out there, it doesn't matter whether it's good, you know, just get it out there, and the more the better. And now that message is starting to change, it's getting that through to the end client, isn't it? And persuading them that actually now it is more a case of quality over quantity, and as you say, meeting the needs of people rather than just the sheer volume of shit that you can create.
Yeah, and I think generally you can sort of point people back to Google. So whenever someone says, why don't I rank for this with best? I'll normally point them back to Google and say, look, the people that rank for this, they're not like your site. Either it's 9 out of 10 are information sites, or they're government bodies, or they're not sites that are selling something. It's not a product page or a category page. But I think the frustrating thing is when you get a client that says, I want to do a load of doorway pages. I literally want to find and replace Oldham in this page. And I want to do one for Rochdale, one for Bury, one for Bolton, nothing different. I just want a load of location pages. You kind of try and talk them out of it. And then there's 3 or 4 competitors doing it and still getting away with it.
That is the hard thing, isn't it? Yeah, we have quite a few clients that say that, well, my competitor is doing it and they're still ranking, and you're like, yeah.
For now they're ranking, but you know at some point it's going to catch up with them. I think locally you can get away with some of that a bit more than you do kind of at a national level as well.
For sure.
We see that a lot, don't we, Rachel? We've got a couple of clients I can think of right now that are, you know, trying to asking us to do certain things that we might have done in the past, or, you know, like 10 years ago, 10 years ago. So I suppose there's some, we've covered off some of the kind of things that you should do, perhaps some of the things that we shouldn't do as well. Is there anything that you would say definitely don't do from a content marketing perspective, Stacey?
I think don't go hiring bloggers blindly. Like, you know, just blog. Literally the briefs that you see and the job descriptions that you see out there for bloggers, like, it's just keep the blog up to date. It's like, what does that mean? What is up to date? The post was a month ago, and what about? And the net result of that is you end up with people blogging for blogging's sake. I think the other thing is, don't get caught up in a quantity game. Like, I have to have a post every weekday, or it's like, do you? Because actually, you know, I was always told, if you don't have anything useful to say, don't say anything at all. So just wait until you've got something useful to say, an idea, some strategy behind it, and then go ahead and do it. And I think the other thing, sort of, to be really cautious about is overspending on big fancy pieces of content where the format's not necessary. So we do a lot of content for link building, which perhaps doesn't tie directly into the goal of getting someone to buy. It'll tie in to a separate business objective of getting someone to link. So we'll do a lot of white papers and things that will ultimately get naturally picked up links in the press. And generally, the vast majority of our content's pretty simple format-wise. And you see a lot of other companies that will sort of be, I mean, Twitter's great for this. Twitter is a festive. Look at all this money I spent on content. And actually, when you put two pieces of content side by side, and we often do it here, and we're comparing and contrasting content that's doing well, you see so many people spending so much on all singing, all dancing interactives, where they're being outperformed by a page that covers the same topic with a blog post and a downloadable PDF. So I think the other mistake would be just do not be led by format. Like if what you want to say and the message you want to get across demands a certain format, fine. But, you know, idea, objective, strategy first, and then worry about format. I think there's a lot of overspending goes on unnecessary design and dev for content that actually would be better kept simple.
Rachel, what do you think about do's and don'ts? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we have really covered all of them. We're again, I'm thinking back to the kind of main points that when we're kind of teaching our better blogging course, that we have a do's and a don'ts slide on the end of that. And one of the big ones is don't be boring. And I think it's something that people really forget. They're like, and again, we said they get caught up in this. Oh my God, I've got to create content. I need to create a blog post this week. Blah blah blah. If you're bored writing it, somebody is going to be bored reading it. So if you're bored writing it, farm it out or knock it on the head. Don't just stick to the same old format every time. You know, as we said at the beginning, content marketing comes under so many different things. You know, if you haven't got 1,000 words to write about something, do an infographic, do a quick video. You know, create a little graphic that you can share on. Create an ebook if you really want to go into details about something. Don't get stuck in this week in, week out. I've got to write 800 words, and that's what I'm going to do. Mix it up a little bit and make it interesting, because the idea is that, you know, you want to entice somebody to start a conversation with you as a business owner. So they're not going to come back and keep talking to you and maybe buy your product or your service if you've bought the pants off them the first time that they've engaged with you. So don't be boring, I think, is crucial. Second thing is, as we've already said, you know, don't embark on it without a strategy, and it can take you half an hour. Just, you know, putting a strategy in place can be as much as doing a little bit of Googling and what, you know, who's currently ranking top, what are they doing, what type of content are they producing, what are my audience looking at. Just do 20 minutes of research and scribble down a bit of a strategy. If that, you know, that's better than nothing. But don't just start blindly writing content for the sake of it. Not optimizing it or not doing anything with it. As we've already said, again, so many people that we know, they'll write a blog post and they'll publish it to the website, and then they do bugger all with it. Well, share it, get it out on your social media, send it out to your email newsletter, repurpose it, turn it into some little graphics that you can use, you know, pad it out and make a downloadable guide. Don't just write a blog post and leave it there and then do nothing with it. Just make sure you're making use of it, and also make sure you're optimizing it. Make sure you've got a keyword in there. You've written it in a question and answer format so that you're appealing to those search engines. You've put a meta description in there. You've put an image alt tag on there. Just do the absolute basics so that it's got a chance of being found. Because I always use the filing cabinet analogy. Google is the world's, and search engines are the world's biggest filing cabinet. And if you don't optimize anything that you're putting up there, you're essentially just putting the piece of paper at the back of the filing cabinet and expecting somebody to find it, and they're not going to be able to. So make sure you've labeled it, make sure you've told it this is what it is and this is who it's for, and then people can find it. I think those are my basic points, really.
Thanks for those. I think I agree with everything that everyone said, but I'm going to say one thing that's slightly different, in that volume is good. Volume can be good as long as it's strategic. I've worked in plenty of kind of marketing departments where they have agonized over one idea, perfected it to that, spent months. Let's come up with one piece of content. It's going to, it's quantity, it's quality over quantity. And you can get into the mindset where you don't actually do very much because you just do one thing. And then if it doesn't work, you go back to the drawing board and actually you spend another 6 months or 3 months or whatever working on the next strategy, the next piece of content. Be strategic, but put the content out at a velocity that is right for your business and right for your industry.
Well, again, it comes back to the don't do anything for the sake of it, doesn't it? If in order to rank number one on Google, you only need to be better than the people that are currently ranking number one on Google. So, what are they doing? And as you said, what's the level for your industry? What's the norm? If your industry is putting out content every single day, then yes, you're going to have to match that. But if they're not, if most people are only blogging or, creating content once every few weeks or whatever, then that's the level that you need to be at. So again, it's volume. It's not doing anything just for the sake of doing it, is it? It's it with a purpose behind it, basically.
It's being strategic. I think the point that I was making was don't fall into the trap of thinking that crafting something that's super high quality, but crafting a small amount of content is going to get you the same as a certain volume as well. Volume is an aspect that you'll need to consider, but that is a strategic consideration based on your particular circumstances and your business circumstances. What time are we coming up to? We're coming up to 1:45, guys. I'm just giving you a bit of a warning. So I wonder what can anyone think of any of the kind of biggest successes that they've had in terms of content? Stacey, have you got any that spring to mind?
Yeah, so I think, as I say, our goals are pretty much always tied into SEO. So one that I like to come back to is kind of this premise of, with link building and SEO, actually, if you get the content element of it right and you look at it strategically, you can make that passive to some degree. So a good example of that, we work with a company that does home biomarker blood tests, like finger prick test kits. And one of their sellers is a cortisol stress blood marker kit. So you're going back 2.5 years, the piece is now, and we just literally we had a look at who was ranking for things like stress statistics and stuff, because we noticed that the sites that were ranking, Mind, government, HSE, all the data is a bit out of date. None of it's personal. It's all just numbers and, stats. And it was a bit crap. So it was like, well, we're going to survey people, really basic, 2,000 people about causes of stress, how stressed you are. We found out something like 85% of Brits would consider themselves regularly stressed. So we had a bit of a PR piece there anyway. Objective was the ultimate objective is rank better for the cortisol test page. But, no one's interested in cortisol statistics. So we brought it back to stress. And we had a story there that the press were interested in. So we got sort of 10, 15 links anyway, just by reaching out with the story. Put it on the website and went with an SEO page title of just stress statistics UK, optimized like you would a product page for a keyword. Ranked really well. And actually those 10 to 20 that we got in the first month or two, fast forward 2.5 years, that piece has got 185 referring domains. It's picking up new ones every week. It's like the independent sites you'd never pitch, like AXA. There's pretty much every national is linked to it at some stage. And every time there's a stress awareness week or a stress awareness month or something about mental health is in the news, it gets picked up again and again. So for us, we've been able to use that as a sort of buy-in for other clients to let us do this content that is more research driven. So it sits outside of the product buying sort of cycle. And let us try and make some of the link building for the SEO side of things a little more passive, a little bit less painful. So we do quite a lot of that. And the net result of that is, tons of links, but the main net result is with no link building to the cortisol page. So I'll top half of page one for all the cortisol queries. And, we sell products through organic search off the back of it. So I think that those sorts of examples where you can, a big pain point for that particular client is the link building side of things. So it's like, this is content that's going to alleviate a pain point and thus indirectly increase sales elsewhere in the business.
I think that is, again, it comes back to one of those key things that you need to kind of persuade the end client about, and that is absolutely when content marketing works best. And again, I come back to, a lot of clients come to us and they have the objective of, I want to sell more of this, or I have this product, or I have this course, or I have this service, this is what I want to do. And that is the end objective for them. And the hard thing is persuading people, well, I know you think we're coming at it in a really roundabout way. Why are you creating this content that is about, especially like you said with the best ballet shoes example, we've done that for clients before. We've done the, what are the top 10 best, X, Y, and Z. And they're like, why are you talking about our competitors on our website? Why are you doing this? It's like, just trust me, trust us. I think as well, one of the things that we did, and again, this comes back to the kind of the flexibility that people need to have when we say about content, your content marketing strategy, it's so important to have it, but don't set it in place and then just let it run for a year. It needs to be a flexible thing that is constantly reacting to your customers and the external things that are going on. And one of ours is a waste management company. And they had a content calendar in place that we were going into March, April and May with, and obviously COVID hit, and we threw that out the window, essentially. We kind of rejigged it all a little bit, and we were like, right, well, we've gone from having customers that might have hired a skip to having everybody's at home and they've got nothing to do. Now is the perfect time to do some home renovations and garden renovations, and all the content that we created became around that. And they got the knowledge bank for I think 3 different articles, which then increased the traffic. But it was all things like, can I still hire a skip during lockdown? What are the restrictions? How often will the council empty the bin during lockdown? All of these really, really targeted but suddenly relevant things that nobody had been searching for before, and that was a massive thing. So I think as well, you've got to allow it to be flexible and be prepared to change it at the drop of a hat when circumstances are changing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of some of the things that I've worked on. I'm thinking one thing that stands out that we worked on at GrowTraffic is a client that sold so niche this product. He sold the lining to blast industrial furnaces. So this mica-based lining to industrial furnaces, but they wanted to educate students about this product because they were worried that the next batch of people to come into the, to kind of leave university and all the rest of it, didn't perhaps have enough knowledge about how the furnaces were all replaced and that this was an option. Because I think this lining prolonged the life of the furnace essentially, or meant you didn't have to replace the furnace, and these things are worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. And so we started targeting content about research and development departments. And this was just content that students, not even their proper target market, but just that students in general wanted to find and use for their kind of coursework and things like that. And we just got massive amounts of traffic for it. And we were able to tip them into downloading other pieces of content about the products themselves. And that worked quite well from a traffic perspective. Whether it helped them sell more products, I suppose they'll only figure out in about 10 years' time. But
when they're really applying for jobs, yeah.
Yeah. I think the other one, and I think that quite often when you're doing content marketing, you've got to think about it from a bit of a campaign perspective, almost from a PR perspective. We've past roles, past campaigns that I've worked on, similar to what you were saying about the porcelain cream. Things like that, those really funky kind of ideas that people just keep latching onto and keep regurgitating. And you find them on random websites, and you'd be like 6 months later, and you think, why is somebody still talking about that bed that was in the office, or whatever it will be, a slide outside of the office or something. So yeah, I think there's all kinds of ways that business owners should be thinking about it. Just very conscious of time here. So we'll start to wrap up. In terms of any resources, any apps, any websites that you suggest that small business owners should go to, Stacey, can I come to you first?
Yeah, I think really handy tools. I think not everyone's got access to sort of premium keyword research tools, but sites like alsoasked.com, which will go off and scrape Google's suggestions from search, can give you some really good ideas for what people are asking in relation to your sort of service and product offering. So I think alsoasked.com is a really good one to get started with some ideas based on how people search.
Absolutely. Rachel?
Well, a similar tool is Answer the Public. So again, if you put your keyword in, it'll tell you all the questions that are being asked at the moment, and it ranks them in order of importance. So you can straight away start to answer the questions that your audience are asking about your product or service. But also, I think, use your analytics, Google Analytics and Google Search Console. So many people just don't have it set up on their website, and it's completely free, and it tells you so much information about the keywords that people are actually using. Because again, companies think that they have this, these are my keywords that I want to target, and when you look at the keywords that are actually being used to find a website, they might be completely different. So what are people actually searching for when they're looking for you as a business? All of that information is available for free, and just simply putting things into Google, it'll tell you people also ask. Right at the bottom it'll say alternatives, different searches that people are also asking. Use that, because straight away you've got different suggestions. As we said at the beginning as well, talk to your customers. There's just no replacement for talking to your customers at all. But also, if you want to get more research on it, the Content Marketing Institute, it just produces great content about content marketing, tells you all sorts, you can waste hours going into it, but it gives all of it's free. All of their blogs and resources and everything are free, and they can give you some really good information on there. If you want some specific training, then the GrowTraffic Better Blogging course, which I've already mentioned several times, but I'll give it another plug. It's £50. We run it twice a month. It's a 2-hour course. It gives you a really good introduction onto how do algorithms work and what are they looking for. How do you start to create a strategy and a content calendar, and then how do you actually structure your content so that it's pleasing to search engines. And in 2 hours you get a really good grounding for that. So GrowTraffic.
I was gonna plug GrowTraffic, but for something different, I was gonna plug Rachel. Always devises a yearly content calendar that's available to download from GrowTraffic. I think it's there in the footer somewhere. So that's a handy resource. Although it's what we September now, so.
October is when I do the one for the next year, and it takes ages longer than you always think it does. But I think personally it's one of the most comprehensive content calendars out there in terms of calendar days and stuff. But I was just going to say I might be slightly biased.
Stacey, can I ask? I think we'll start to wrap up now. What's your top tip for small businesses who are either content marketing that's not quite working or looking to get into content marketing?
Yeah, in either way, if it's not working or they're trying to get started, I would look for these triggers. So what's the very first thing that happens the very first day that someone sets off on a journey that ends in them making a purchase on your website?
Absolutely. Rachel?
Start now, because it is not instant, but it is something that your business needs to be doing, and you can bet your bottom dollar that there is a competitor of yours out there at the moment creating the content that your customers need, and you should be the one creating that content. So start now, start small, chip away at it, and then you can start to dominate that space without it costing you millions of pounds, because you need to do it by next week.
Yeah, and my comment would be just create a really deep understanding of your customer. Be strategic about content, but do go at it. Do get going. Do get content out there. Share it on all your different channels. Put it the places where people are going to be. Get it in front of them at the right time. That'd be me. I think we've pretty much summed up this whole session there. Yeah. So thank you very much to both of you, especially Stacey. Thank you very much for spending an hour of your time to talk to us, to losers.
Yeah, and Stacey, don't forget to put your contact details in the chat, please, so that people can get hold of you if they've got any questions when they watch it back later.
Yeah, no worries, I will do, no problem.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Lovely. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
good week.
Bye-bye.